Hello and welcome to the Sovereign Society podcast. Authentic conversation with modern medicine women, cosmic dudes, and change makers, empowering you to honor the journey, trust the process, and radiate your authentic radness. I'm your host, Sabrina Riccio, and this episode in particular has been months and months coming, and I've been patiently waiting for this episode with Robyn Youkilis, and I feel like with today, and we're recording this, Uranus just moved into Taurus, Taurus new moon. It's like the new paradigm is here. Like this is the new paradigm, and her passion for gut health and the way that we really view our bodies and the way we're here to really heal our bodies is truly a new paradigm of what she's doing in her movement. Because I've been reading her books for a while. I read Go With Your Gut, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to interview her someday. Like, I just already planted that seed. I knew it was going to happen. I was like, I'm going to interview her someday. And then when she reached out, like, hey, I want to be on your podcast. I was like, all right, cool. Let's talk about Thin from Within. And like, here we are. And so we've had to reschedule because life. And, you know, she's like an amazing mother, entrepreneur. And like, she's just goddesspreneur, literally, like she just radiates it. And so I'm really honored to have her here and to have this conversation to really shift our relationship around our body and the way we seek and feed and really see our body, to really help us use our bodies truly as a vessel to really share our medicine with the world and really show up fully and authentically and be change makers. And we have to really have strong vessels. And I feel like tapping into her books and what she's been doing, I really feel like she feels that way too. So I just want to say thank you so much, Robyn, for the work that you're doing and your commitment to really educating people on how to make it accessible and easy to really reclaim their health with their gut and to really allow that power center to really propel and to really help people thrive and share their medicine and their truth. So thank you, sister.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely welcome. And I'm excited to be here. And it's very interesting because the day that our original podcast was scheduled, I just was looking at my calendar and I'm like, this is too much. Like, this is too much. And I almost never cancel anything or reschedule or move something. And I just felt like it was such a good moment for me to learn, like, really, what did my body need? What was happening for me? How could I pivot and shift and listen to myself and honor myself? And I'm still such a work in progress around that and letting that be okay and just reaching out and saying, you know, this is what I need. Is that okay? And it sounds silly, but or like small, but like that was a big moment for me, you know? So just even now I'm here and it's like, now I have the space and I have some time to fully be here. How much better that is. And that I almost denied myself that and just pushed through.
Well, I honor you for that. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people, it's a huge misconception that people, you know, like people think like people on Instagram, like they put them on pedestals and things like that. But the truth is like, we're human too. And like, we all have needs and we all have to make sure that like, we're really honoring those boundaries too, because in a world where like everything is being shared, it's really important to have that boundary and to have that balance of self-care while also like sharing. And I'm sure even with you being a mom and like also tending to Navy's needs and like your own needs and your husband's needs and your business needs, there is a very strong balancing act that you've had to learn.
Yeah. And I'm still learning, you know, yeah. and you'll see a lot of times I do go a little quiet, what I consider quiet for me on social media. And I do have some parameters in which that I've tuned in to my intuition as a mama, as a woman, as a person, and seeing, you know, what's okay for me to share on social media of my life, of my child, and also knowing that that can change and that can shift. But just, you know, when do I need to get quiet? When do I need to take a step a moment away? And what feels like joyful to share for me. And that's why people see so many videos of my daughter eating, because it's just such a joyful moment. She does it from such a place of pleasure and connection and love. And why you don't see her you know, melting down or having a no moment or, you know, it's
you just, mean real life, like real life too? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I show that of myself when it feels like it's connected to a purpose. But I don't show that of her because I feel that, you know, she didn't give me permission to share that. And it feels intrusive.
Invasive in a way, or
yeah. And then also knowing that that's okay. Like I can choose what feels aligned for me, but the key in all of this and in all my books and all my messaging is connecting to your intuition first, and how that is connected to our gut and our gut health, but even more importantly, like what is our body communicating to us in all times, and how can we tune into that in any moment, if even as a busy mom, entrepreneur, anybody in this world, and how we can use that power, that innate power and that wisdom to support us, to feel empowered, to feel inspired, and not to feel overwhelmed or stuck.
Well, that's what I feel like too, with this like new paradigm and with so much technology. Like we've really had to evolve as a species to live beyond the five senses and to really hone into that intuition, because there's that subtlety amongst the noise, because now there's just a lot more noise, like there's podcasts and there's like social media and there's like all the TV. But if you go back to the very primal ages of humanity, we didn't have any of that technology. So now that we have this technology, we really have to dive in one step deeper and use that intuition to really help us listen to our body's needs. So know when to say no thinking, to know to when to reschedule that podcast. Otherwise, we're just going to crash and burn.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, all these cool technologies and these new ways for us to connect and learn and take in information and be seen and heard in the world are requiring us to go even more primal and more ancestral and deeper into our own internal voices. And it's not really an option anymore. We have to go through some sort of training with ourselves, or we're going off the rails. I feel like even a couple years ago, it was more, I'm spending too much time scrolling or on my phone, but it wasn't what it is now. And now it's literally like which is so like, I love sharing the message in my work is, no, it's your intuition. It's your intention. When, how you feel after eating a bag of chips, when it was just you eating a bag of chips, when you lost your mind, and how it feels to eat a bag of chips when you're like, yeah, I want to eat this bag of chips. These are delicious chips. I'm so excited for these. And you're present and when to say you've had enough, and like, it's no big deal. And so that conversation needs to happen in all of our moments. And we can let that feel flowing and supportive and a part of us, instead of feeling like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted by how much conversation I'm having with myself. When I explain to people the process that I have around food, which really is, putting a hand on my belly, taking a breath, asking what my body needs, that can sound obsessive, but for me, it's the opposite. It's when I go.
It's nurturing.
Right, exactly. It's how I take care of myself. And you can do it quickly. It doesn't need to take a lot of time, but it's just, if you can do that before anything you eat in your day, even if it's before like a snack, like a bar you're having or something, just like, what do I need? Would this feel supportive? Sometimes you may just hear like, I need a glass of water before this, or like, yeah, I'm so happy I made this choice. Like, it's not just to look for the negative, it's to look for all of it, so that you're always having this conversation with yourself in some way.
It's I see it as like a symbiotic relationship. And I've had gut health issues for a long time, like a really long time. I've been dealing with Candida since high school and things like that, like literally for a really long time. And even lately, I've been having a lot of health issues. I've been doing so much blood work and things like that. And I realized last night, the relationship, not just with the food that I eat or my actions, but also the way that what stories am I still holding on to, right? What stories am I still holding on to? And the majority of my trauma stored between the ages of 16 and 22, which is the developmental of the solar plex chakra, which is so much of your digestive system and your stomach and things like that. So if we're continuing to hold on and repeat those stories that are really not propelling us forward, but are leaving us in that victim mode, there's no way you're going to be able to really eat healthy and really, because there is a symbiotic relationship. There is no separation between the food, the energy of the food in your mouth, to the energy that is in your body, to the energy that is in your thoughts, and the energy that is just around you.
Yeah. I like to think of that like, what are you asking your body to digest? Right? What are you digesting food-wise, nutritionally, but what thoughts, what feelings, what emotions, what stories? And I share in my story, people are like, well, what's your gut health story? And personally, I didn't suffer from a lot of what would be qualified as gut health issues like IBS or celiac or anything like that. But I absolutely suffered a lot from anxiety in my stomach and holding on and clenching when it was time to release and let go and allow, and feeling, making myself sick almost from that, feeling just paralyzed in my body and so worrisome and anxious, and realizing that I was asking my system to digest a lot when its main job was to be, in a parasympathetic state, in that rest and digest mode, that calm, and leaning into the love and everything is going to be okay. Everything is supporting me, instead of the fear and the what if this doesn't work out and how am I going to do that? And realizing like asking my body to process that and whatever I was eating was way too much for my system and for most people's systems. I'm sorry to hear about your health stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm working through it. But like I said, I realized a lot last night because I went to a very deep ceremony to really bring in like this new moon energy and the void moon to just really do that deep work. And this Uranus and Taurus, which is here for like 80 plus years now. And this is like the new paradigm. And yeah, it's been a really potent cosmic day. And thank you for that. And that's me like really shifting. But I'm also, going back to when we were talking about that ancestral, like primal, how we have to go to that. And that's the thing too, is just realizing that a lot of our health issues can really stem from our DNA and the things that our family carried too, the traumas and things like that, because it is passed down, and as a mother, I'm sure you've seen, like you've done a lot of work before having Navy and really doing that. So it's like a conscious declaration almost to your child that's coming in, like, I'm going to be doing this work so I don't continue to pass on this trait. And so I feel like a lot of what we're experiencing right now is that our ancestors and our parents really didn't have the awareness of gut health. They really didn't have the awareness of the power. They did have the awareness of the power of food, or deep ancestors, but it wasn't until so many of these antibiotics and GMOs and things like that came in. And then I just feel like with so much of like the Great Depression and things like that, there's still that pain that our ancestors carry, because I still see that with my grandmother right now. And, my family is all from New York, and my grandma had 8 kids. And so it was just, my grandfather was an NYPD lieutenant officer. And so she was at home by herself raising 8 kids. And so she, the story of like, we're poor and all of that. And that continues to trickle down, and realizing like the worthiness of like, it's your like divine right to eat real food. Like it's your divine right to eat nutrient rich, like food, and there's a lot of power right now with people, and it's through their money and the way that they're spending their money. And I feel like that's why there's such a huge uprise of like health brands that are really coming out, and healthy foods and snacks and things like that, because that's what the people want. And I feel like there will get a point where it will be even more accessible to get that, because right now it's so trendy in that way. But there will come a time where that's the norm. That's what I see, and that's what I hold. And
yeah,
sure,
I really I felt a lot of like wellness. I was hanging out with my friend last night who went to the nutrition school I went to so long ago as well. And it's like, she said, remember, you used to go to Greenpoint, Brooklyn for like the one place that had matcha. Now in New York, it's everywhere. And clearly it's not everywhere around the world, but wellness is definitely becoming more of who we are and where we're living, instead of a trend or a thing that we're reaching for. And I'm so glad, in the same vein, that gut health in a sense is trendy, because it means it's getting focus and it's getting some attention, and there's articles, and it's coming more to the mainstream to realize, what we have done, to our guts and our microbiomes, and really how we can repair it. There's so much that your body is always working for you. Your body wants you to be well. Your body wants you to be healthy. You can reset your hunger hormones in 3 days. Your gut microbiome can reset itself in 7 days. Like, some of these things are a longer process, but there's huge shifts, research shifts that can happen so quickly, because your body is always working in your favor. So if you're feeling like you've got some of these imbalances, or you have a history of antibiotics, I was way over medicated my whole life. I have a heart condition that at the time required antibiotics, a high dose of antibiotics anytime I went to the dentist, and I had like a mouthful of braces and cavities and all of that. So and then I had chronic sinus infections. So I had spent my whole life practically on antibiotics, and I don't suffer from any of the fallout from that now because I've spent years nourishing my gut. I've been very lucky to start this, but you can start today, taking, adding in some raw probiotic rich sauerkraut, adding in more of these foods, focusing, yes, the products are amazing. These new health food products are amazing, like roasted carrots, steamed kale, a drizzle of a quality oil, coconut oil. Like, what's nice about the food is we are starting to come to some agreement on some of these nourishing foods and how we can get them in, snacking on avocados. Yes, there's some of these more gut friendly foods for sure that are trendier, but like really these basic nourishing from the earth foods and how we can bring those in, those will heal you. They will heal you, or they'll be part of your healing process.
Can I share with you what came through when you were talking about having a sinus infection and stuff? So your sinuses and your ears are so connected with your throat chakra. And I think what I was hearing at that moment was like, that to me was the universe sharing with you, like, this is how you're going to be sharing your truth and sharing and living out your dharma.
That's cool. Wow.
Because it was like, cool. It's this it was a blockage of your throat. Like that moment in your life, you weren't living your authentic expression, your truth. And so it's like again, you're talking about the body wants to work for you. That was your body communicating with you, like, ding, 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 like neon lights. Like, this is the puzzle piece for you living out your dharma and you sharing your medicine, Robyn. Go for it. That's what, I just got goosebumps. Like, that's what I heard when you were sharing that.
That's cool. That reminds me. So before I found nutrition, I worked as like an actress as a kid. And then I went to college, and my dad said, love my dad, but he said at the time, he's like, you've been acting your whole life. I'm not paying for you to go to acting school, go get a degree in something else. And so I went to college. I was an international relations and political philosophy double major with a minor in geology. And I was going to be an international criminal court lawyer. Wow. And didn't do anything with acting for years or performing. I don't even think acting was ever like my calling. It was just like sharing myself in a way that felt scary to me. Like I've always like stepped into the fire kind of feeling. And after college, I got a job at a nonprofit organization, and I was doing fundraising and development. And I was kind of like, I call myself a clipboard girl. Like I was very good at organizing and getting funds raised and putting on events, which clearly has served me well in running my own business. Like I was kind of a secret entrepreneur, and I didn't know it. But one night I was going to meet my mom and some girlfriends that I'd grown up with, so they'd known her. And I was going to Serendipity, that famous hot chocolate place in Upper East Side, and it was pouring rain out. And I was about to go in the restaurant, and I just felt this wave of like complete and total like shakes come over me and panic. And I went into a doorway. I thought I was going to die. I learned later I was having a full blown like stage 10 panic attack. And my boyfriend at the time had to come and get me. Like I literally couldn't even get out of this doorway. I was so crippled by fear and anxiety and this flood of overwhelm. And I realized, after that moment, I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing with my life what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And at the time, again, it just meant expression of some kind. So I went down the acting route and got headshots and was in theater, and I loved it. And, typical like kind of struggling actor. And again, I don't even know that that's what I was supposed to be doing, but I was supposed to be sharing. I was supposed to be showing up in a way that felt scary to me, that felt like I was living my passion. And, from that panic attack, that's led me, to the path of all of this. And, I did end up in wellness and nutrition, but really mostly that was scary for me too. And now I get to share it more on social media and in other ways that make me feel connected to kind of that performer in me. But I still see that evolving in me. People could look at me and be like, oh, she has 2 books or she has this business and she's there and that's what it looks like. And I feel like this is just another like step on the ladder. Like I'm continuing, like I'm excited to see where this goes for me, because I know, yes, the passion is about sharing about wellness and your intuition and gut health, but really it's about me sharing myself and you sharing yourself and how you can connect to that. And
people want realness in today's world.
So if it's through cleaning up your food or connecting to your intuition, great. It's like, we have all these ways and all these guests that you connect with. It's like, how can we all collectively connect to, what's burning inside of us to come out in any way, in any medium, and allowing that and letting that be okay. Giving ourselves permission to be about whatever that is.
Yes. Amen to that. Yeah. And it's funny because before we got on too, you were talking about like, oh, like the word goddess is like a trigger to me. And then you heard like my episode with Ruby Warrington, and that was one of my favorite episodes. And do you share, like you're talking about like how there was like resistance, but you're like, I need to go and jump into that.
Yeah. Can I share? So with everyone, so I'm typically, I try to give equal word equality, but there's some words that just for me, I'm just like, no, I don't know. There's just something in me, whether it's my upbringing, like we all have them, and goddess is one of them. I'm like, oh, goddess. I just, whatever. I'm like a sharp tongue New Yorker, like, like
I was raised by them. I get it.
Yeah, like exactly. You speak this language, like to take a moment to think about, any of it. At least I'm not even like, I'm stuttering. Like I don't even have words for it, whether it's a block or not, or who knows, but there's just something in that vibration where I'm just like, no. And so, anytime there's a program or someone uses something around that language, and clearly it's not just the word goddess, there's something else within that. But I took myself on a little staycation. In the winter, I knew that I needed to get quiet and go in before my book was coming out, because especially in life in general, but especially with a toddler and full running business, my life is really loud and it's just noise. There's a lot of noise in addition to the noise. And so I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to share the message of this book from my authentic self unless I had a minute to be like, hey, authentic self, how are you feeling? So I told my husband, I went to a hotel for 2 days down the street in Brooklyn. So many things worked out for that to happen. It was incredible. I was actually supposed to be at Ruby Warrington's retreat, but it didn't work out. And then I found this hotel and it was all organic. And then they were running this ridiculous special where it was a third or a quarter of the price, like so many of those magical moments.
The synchronicity moments of just like, here's on a silver platter.
It's the best. And so I was reading Ruby's book at the time. And I was so grateful to have those 2 days because I could finish a book. And again, the moms listening know, you read a book if I can get one in 6 months, I'm in like a really good pace. And so I finished that book in 2 days. So I just wanted to really hear her, not just read the book. That's why the podcasts are so wonderful with authors, is you read the words, but then you hear their connection to it. And so I was looking for Ruby's, and Ruby had shared it. And she was like, I'm really into this one. And I listened to yours. And I saw the name and I'm like, Sovereign Goddess, what? And then like, are you kidding me? But something in me, as opposed to saying, no, that's not for me, I went, that feels like it's not for me, but something in me is saying, go into the resistance, lean in. There's something in this. There's a message, there's a spark, and not even I need to get something out of it, but just knowing that when we feel that fear and we're really supposed to go into it, and you do, it feels like you really accomplished something. Like it's kind of a big deal, and it can lead to so many other sparks and ahas and insights, and kind of the timing of the planets right now. And this is also a new conversation for me to even know that it's pronounced Uranus and not Uranus is a big deal. Just feeling, now we're talking and there's this shift happening, and oh my God, have I been feeling this shift lately. Usually I've trained myself to be so cool as a cucumber in mom life. She throws something against the wall and I just breathe and I'm like, what would be helpful in this moment? But lately I'm cursing at the red lights and just feeling all this stickiness of what's shifting. So there's just definitely something happening right now about going into the resistance, going into the fire, and just breathing with it and seeing what's there. And knowing that you don't have to have the answer. I don't have the answer. You don't have the answer. It's just, can I just be with this and see what's coming up for me? And in me doing this, I had another coaching call. I have run a weekly coaching program called Rockstar Collective. And I had Jamie Graber as one of the guest teachers, and she teaches about mind shifting and moon rituals. And just spending more time with that this morning, I'm just realizing like I'm going through a shift right now. Like there's something changing and it's all connected. And I don't know how it's going to shake out, but cool. you know?
Yeah. Can I
And
share with you what I've gotten from that?
Yeah, tell me.
So what I see, you know, and you talk a lot about this too in your book, is like the importance of balance, right? So I feel like right now there is a master shift that's like a recalibration that's happening between the balance of the masculine and feminine, which is why I changed the name from Sovereign Goddess Podcast to Sovereign Society. One, because I feel like it was more approachable. And two, I, like you're saying, like, oh, goddess, like, I was like the New Yorker roots in me are like kicking in. And two, Luke Story reached out to me and he was like, hey, like, will you allow cosmic dudes on? And so to me, I just felt like I was resisting bringing on the men for a while because I was working so much of healing my own feminine. And, but now it's like recalibrating that balance. So what I'm seeing is happening right now is that there is this like very strong divine balance with the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And we talk about that as like 5D consciousness. So I feel like we're consciously up leveling, you know, as our collective is becoming more awake and they're becoming more conscious and more aware and more intuitive. So to me, like that 5D unity consciousness is becoming the baseline now. Like that is the new foundation. So it's like everything that has been purging from the old paradigm of that 3D, because we're continuing to up level higher and higher and higher as a humanity because there is more love. The TV will show propaganda, social media, you know, like especially Facebook with our parents' generation will show propaganda because I had this Freudian slip that we're experiencing made for TV trauma right now. And so if we're having these made for TV traumas, we're going to eat unhealthy, or most people will if they're not conscious of it, you know, because they're going back to that ancestral pain. And a lot of, like, going back around, those ancestors, for instance, like they didn't really have the awareness or the acknowledgement of the importance of food, the importance of chewing, the importance of, you know, like really paying respect to the food and like blessing that food instead of just like unconsciously eating the fast food revolution, you know? So all of that is kind of like dying out right now. And I feel like what's happening even with you is like you're a pioneer for the voice of gut health. But like, there's not very many people out there talking a lot about gut health, and your passion for it is just really helping you up level and share up. So like when you're going through that, it's kind of like the shake up, right? It's the shaking before the awakening of even like anchoring in more of that truth. And it's like recognizing those triggers, and, you know, because we all have our triggers, and it's like, how can I love more? Or how can I like breathe more? How can I forgive? How can I choose again and be conscious, you know? And it's always layers. And again, going with that symbiotic relationship. So I feel like that shifting is happening is just like, there's a new baseline, and that is the unity consciousness. And as we continue to go higher, you know, so you see a lot more sacred geometry because that's the next level. That's 60. And then 70 is the sound current, which is you speaking your truth. So you're going to have to continuously up level because, you know, it's a massive universe. So that's what I feel like so many people that are on a path of speaking truth are really feeling these shifts, because it's literally the old parts just really dissolving and seeing the triggers of how you're going to react in that way when you see the red light and you're like, ah, like, you know, going back to that baseline of that calmness and that centeredness and that truth and that balance.
Cool. And feeling the shifts from a new place, like shifts for me, I think over the last decade when I've kind of come on this. So I've had my coaching practice for almost a decade now. And for so many years, it was my shifts in consciousness looked like picking a fight with my husband or boyfriend at the time. And, you know, well, my business isn't working out, or no one's going to want this or like this, or eating my way through the kitchen cabinets at night. And now that I'm not doing that I'm getting quiet and I'm turning to love instead of the fear, I don't know what shifting looks like or feels like. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what that collective, you know, as you were saying, you know, how that comes together. I'm like learning that right now. So I really have done the work to take care of my body, to tune into my intuition, to call on all these elements working for me. So where do I go from here? You know, how does that play
That's
out?
where the trust comes in too. And that's where I feel like listening to the intuition, because it will never steer you wrong.
Yeah. And so many of my readers that I, they hear the voices. It's the training I find is really around listening and trusting, and also knowing, like I heard the voices, kind of, so I'd be snacking my way through the kitchen cabinets at night, going from salty to sweet and back again 15 times over until I was done. And I would hear a voice say, put that down and go take a shower or go take a bath, but I couldn't listen to it. And then sometimes I even had more messages from the universe, like something would fall out of the cabinet and drop on my foot, or I would bang my head on the cabinet, or, something would explode in the refrigerator, like all these little messages, but I wasn't ready to really hear them, but I knew I was getting them. So just knowing, like telling your listeners, like this takes time. Some things can happen in a moment, but some things will take years. And just the practice of chewing our food before swallowing, that took me years to finally be at a place where I'm doing this now most of the time. And sometimes I do need reminders, and, our brains need something to be busy with. For example, I run a chewing challenge. I have a free 21-day chewing challenge called thechewingchallenge.com. And it's me in your inbox for 21 days being like, chew your food, which might sound wild, but we need it. So it's really how I teach and how I coach and write, and everything is about the practical, right? The chewing our food, right? Starting with something like giving ourselves something to focus on during meal times, and then also the energetic and the emotional and the what's beneath it, and kind of giving the little left brain enough chew toys to play with while your right brain might be doing more of that, deeper integration work, and seeing how that comes together over time and changes and is constantly shifting.
I love that. Yeah. And so this is what's interesting too, because like I'm really working with my gut health right now a lot too. Like I found a parasite in my colonic a couple weeks ago, and I feel like there's more in there. So like last week I had like stool samples, 6 vials of blood drawn out, like breathing tests to see, do I have Lyme's? What do I have? This, and just like really tapping into all of that. And so it's been really interesting for me. And this is something I really want to ask, because I know a lot of people suffer from Candida. And so even working with like Candida, or having Candida, or experiencing Candida, because I'm also in this space of being aware of the words that you're saying, like I refuse to say like they're my parasites. I don't own them. They're just like invasive right now, and they're going to peace out soon, but they're not mine. Or like, like really not owning that, and just realizing it's part of your experience and they're there to teach you something. And so what's been really interesting for me, because like I've read your book, I've done your recipes, and I'm still really having this hard time understanding, because I was always taught like with Candida, like don't have the fermented foods because you're actually going to feed more of the bad bacteria. So what do you feel about like the uprise of Candida and sugar and all of that, and having that reset? So you have to first have the reset.
Yeah. So Candida definitely is the what's the word I'm trying to, like the counterpoint to all the sugar that's invaded our diets. It's how our body is responding. It's how they're reacting. It's like the fling back, right? So the rubber band, we pulled the rubber band too tight, and boom, all of us ended up with Candida, in addition to a bunch of other environmental factors and what our bodies are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I always say with that, my research is that I do not feel that fermented foods in the beginning stages of healing your Candida are recommended. I think some of the dairy-based ones can be okay, like kefir or coconut kefir, for example, but I don't think that the sauerkraut or the fermented vegetables or kombucha, for example, are what I would keep as part of the protocol. I like to really distinguish for my clients, whether it's Candida or IBS, whatever it is that they're going through, that there's a healing stage. And that healing process can be, some people could be a couple weeks, it could be a couple months, it could be a couple years, it could be a couple decades. But just this idea that, okay, so I'm in a healing time right now. What do I need to take away? What do I need to bring out? And I trust that this is a cycle. There will be another side of this. This will not be forever. And I feel like just recognizing that this is not forever. This is just what my body needs right now. And you can see that shifting and changing and trusting that that will happen for you can in itself give your body so much more space to heal. and do what it needs to do. Just that mind shift of, oh my God, this is a life sentence and I'm never going to be able to eat that again. It's like, no, I don't think that that's true for you. I think your body will need this for, we'll see how long. And then we can start to play and go from there.
And that's what a powerful, like that to me feels more empowering, because that's so much of the shift to mindset is like getting out of that victim mode of like, excuse me, this is like, oh, see, I'm like clearing out my throat as I share that. And getting out of that victim mode of like, oh, my Candida, or like, oh, I'm, you know, this is the doomsday, like I can't do this anymore. But to me, something that's been really strong too is shifting the word set. So instead of like discipline, because there's such a heavy negative connotation to it, and it can instill a lot of fear and stuff. How about shifting it to devotion?
Yeah.
Instead of, you know what I mean? And like, this is my devotion to my body, to my health, to my well-being, having this be my sadhana, my practice, having this be how I'm able to share with the world is through the health of my gut and my body, and to really take responsibility for that and realize like, hey, I'm dedicated because I'm devoted to this, because I know what's going to be on the other side is going to be even better than I can ever imagine.
Yeah. And the lessons never look the way you think they're going to.
No.
Right? We think like what we need to learn is going to be somehow like way cuter than it ends up being, but they're delivered, and they are challenging, and they're challenging and they're challenging for us in that moment. It wouldn't be necessarily challenging for your friend next to you. It's for you in that moment. It's just so interesting. And I like to use the language, like I'm actively working towards healing, or I'm actively working towards shifting this. My body is in the process of shifting this. And again,
feeling those words and that vibration.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's interesting too, because I feel like what I'm hearing too right now, like receiving, is like, I feel like there's such a huge wave of like gut health issues, or like it's such on the forefront, is because this is like the universe's opportunity to try to heal the family, and making like cooking together, as you know, that's so ancestral too, is like the family all coming together to cook and using that food as a space of gathering, because we're so disconnected with like the TV and the technology and being on the screens, you know, when we're eating, and we don't really allow that time to like sit around the table together like we used to. You know, everything is so go, go, go.
Yeah. It's interesting. With the cooking conversation, like we always cooked. My grandmother cooked, but what happened was it was actually advertising. So it was a media message coming in of, well, you want to be the better mom. The better mom is taking something out of the freezer and you don't have to slave away. The better mom opens this can.
It's a propaganda in a way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've researched, you know, when we shifted away, I've spent a lot of time on this, and it blows my mind.
When was it around that time? Like what years?
Like
yeah.
Like when TV dinners came out and, you know, Chef Boyardee and all these canned foods, it was, this is better.
I have a really funny story about Chef Boyardee. So
it's delicious. I love that.
No, wait, this is even better. So my grandfather, I come from 2 generations of chefs. My family owns restaurants. And my grandfather was fresh off the boat from Italy, and he came to New York and then moved to LA. And when he was living in Redondo Beach, someone approached him, was like, hey, we want you to, like, before Chef Boyardee, hey, we have this idea. We want to bottle and can your sauce. They wanted my grandfather to be Chef Boyardee. And my grandfather said, who would eat pasta out of a can?
Oh my God. Do you want to hear something also even more in my mind?
Yeah.
I have a parallel story to that.
I had to hear it.
Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, had his boat docked next to my like dad or grandpa's boat or something in Cincinnati. And he approached my dad to go 50 with him on Wendy's when his little redheaded girl was like running around. And my dad was like,
wow, talk about a parallel universe.
Who would ever eat fast food hamburgers? No one's gonna buy from this guy. And I would have been part of like the Wendy's fast food hamburger empire, which actually would have been great because I would have changed the whole thing. But
Wow, true parallel universe. Like, talk about a pendulum swing.
That's wild. I've never heard. That's wild. Your grandpa was going to be
Chef Boyardee.
Chef Boyardee. So
Yeah.
just know that like these are messages that we have been we think we're smarter than we are with some of this stuff, and we're not. The food is designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
It's that way. There's specific flavor nuances that they test 100 times on a candy bar or this to get you right at that point.
Yeah.
More, it's all there. And the other level of this is your phone is designed the same way too.
With your algorithms.
So
and the addiction, yeah.
For example, on Instagram doesn't, every time you open Instagram and you see your likes, it doesn't show you like a couple likes and then you have a couple likes later. It bundles them. So you get a hit and you get a serotonin surge.
Stop.
So then you then connect like, oh, I got a hit. There's joy there. And then you keep toggling through everything until it dwindles and you come down from your high. It's all designed. It's all designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we can like get pissed and shocked for a minute. So
now we have that awareness. How do we choose, other than being resistant, because we were talking about resistance earlier, that never works. Like, I can't stand the resist movement. I don't think there's no solutions there. So we be rebellious by coming up with solutions. Like, it's all about being rebellious. That's a new paradigm way. Like, it's very rebellious to be like, oh, I don't eat fast food. For instance, I live in a very small town now here in Joshua Tree. And when I bought my house, my realtor is like, oh, you've got all the goods now. You've got Applebee's, you've got Sizzlers, you've got Panda Express. And in my head, I'm like, what am I doing? But that's like, they're meeting you. Those advertisers are meeting you where you are too.
Yeah.
You know?
So it all comes back to, so to sum up some of my philosophies around food and everything, I always say, clean up your gut so you can live from your gut.
Mm-hmm.
So pay attention to your gut health. What's happening there? Are you feeling bloated, or you feel like you're digesting your food? You know, what are some of these gut healing foods I talk about? They're all over my blog. They're all over my books that you can bring in. And how can we support ourselves to make these choices that make us feel good? And then the more we start cleaning up our gut, the more we're going to be able to connect to that intuitive voice. And that intuitive voice is what's here to guide us, and also guide us through our food, but guide us through our phones. So again, it's that like potato chip hangover. When does it feel like it was an intentional choice, and when does it feel like it isn't? So watch yourself, see, when do I turn to my phone to get that hit? And just like, I'm watching myself lately too, like, oh, I do not need to be picking up my phone in this moment. I do not need to be checking it. And I'm uncomfortable. And it's designed that way. So taking a breath, recognizing, oh, I want to pick up my phone again right now. Take a breath, put it back down. What do I need? Is something going on here? No, nothing's going on. You're just, distracted and used to distracting yourself. Or I'm uncomfortable. I'm upset that my husband's coming home late. I didn't get a moment to take a minute for myself before I walked in with my daughter at night, again, and then what are these practices that I need to bring in? One thing that I teach in Thin From Within is taking a minute for yourself before you come into your evening, before the kids, before whatever it is that your evening ritual is. And it doesn't need to be a meditation, a whole thing. It can just be 3 deep breaths, but just coming into yourself, coming into your body. So then you can make choices from a place of intuition and intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people have a hard time going within because a lot of people are resisting to the things that they need to heal or the things they need to address. And it's like, that's not going to take it. That doesn't work anymore. It really doesn't work anymore. Like, you really need to like nurture yourself. Like, self-care is everything today. Like, really making sure your cup is full before you're going out and sharing and doing the work and connecting with family or being around the triggers, or, it's just like, really, that's a level of self-respect, which I feel like the majority of society has really steered away from, is self-respect.
Yeah. And I like to teach too that self-care, like it's just life. Like, your self-care is first and everything goes around that.
Yeah.
So if you look at your calendar and you were like, okay, well, and if I could do this with Tyler, you can do it. What's happening in your work, what's happening in your home life, like, where do you need to get those things in? And also it's asking us to ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to ask my husband, a couple mornings a week, I need you to get her first so that I can meditate and that I can do some journaling so I can come into myself. Like, that was a big deal for me to ask because,
that's overcoming the martyrdom too.
Totally. and releasing that and letting go of that. You know, what can you ask for? How can you make, and if you're not going to get that support in your immediate set circle, how can you find it somewhere else? What do you need?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. A lot of people have a hard time asking for help, and a lot of people have a challenging time receiving, you know, and it's like, that's part, again, going back with balance. It's everything. There has to be a balance of give and take and give and receive. And otherwise you'll feel depleted and you start to feel really resentful and really bitter. And that's not, and then you're going to eat all the junk foods. Like, you eat the sugars when you feel like you need more heart opening. You eat the salties when you feel like you need more power and things like that. And I just feel like there's just a deep level of awareness of being aware of what are the types of foods you're eating too, and realizing, like, you know, what's in it. Like, for instance, LaCroix, I just learned that LaCroix.
BPA in the cans.
Not even that. They're natural flavors. They add an additive into it to make you addicted to continue to drink more LaCroix. But they don't have to say those things, you know, because it's like part of. So I, like, my prayer is like looking forward to the day where they really have to share like the ingredients, like really, really pure ingredients, because there's so many crazy other words that are covering up what's actually happening.
Yep. Anytime you feel like you have a serving, what would feel like a complete amount of something, and you immediately feel yourself wanting more, look at the ingredients. And it can be something as innocent as flavored sparkling water. Because there's never time that I have one of those that I don't immediately want one right after.
Amazing. Yeah.
And
that's
what it's designed for.
I just had to like feel into that, like the serving size, like realizing, like, once you've had that serving size, like if you like whatever you're craving, and realizing, damn, that's like, like mind blown right there with that one.
Yeah. And it's funny, you keep saying balance. Do you know I'm a Libra?
Well, I'm a Gemini, so it makes sense.
My husband's a Gemini, and I'm all Libra. I'm like sun and rising, and I'm all.
You're a triple Libra?
I think I'm a triple Libra. Something's in. Oh, one sec.
You can't make this shit up.
I got me to clean the garbage. Thank you.
So triple Libra.
Wait, let me check. I'm like, one of them is and one of them isn't. I always forget.
Yeah, I'm in this space right now where, you know, with this Uranus, Taurus, and Taurus new moon. So Taurus, my
sun and moon in Libra.
Wow, your sun and moon in Libra.
And my Mercury's in Scorpio, which definitely makes sense. So yeah. My ascending is Cancer. That's the one that's different.
Oh, that's why you're so mama nurturing. Truly, like, that's so you, like, being that nurturing of, like, you know, Cancer is so that of like nurturing, love, the moon, like the essence, which is so funny because you're like, oh, the goddess word, but like that is like the Cancer, and that's your personality. But yeah, I just think, like, I just see a huge shift in that too, you know. And there's so much about like eat with your blood type, and you know, like my ride or die Sahara is so big with the Ayurveda, and she's really being a pioneer of like how Ayurveda is shifting, and like there's so much more science now, even with a lot of these ancient teachings of food. But I feel like the overall thing is just really what feels right with you, and to not shame other people for their food choices. You know, you can just like lead by example, and just like honor people for where they are. I think that's the real paradigm shift.
Yeah. And knowing too that like what's working for you will likely shift and change. That's why I'm all about constantly tuning in, constantly checking in. Mm-hmm. It's funny because in my book I teach about a rule of 5 plate, and the 5 plate you want to have. And you know, it's nothing wild. It's just a nice way to think about it, but it's protein, healthy fat, fermented food, and greens, cooked or raw, depending what works for you, and then a cooked vegetable. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is recently I'm like, I'm over like roasted carrots, roasted cauliflower, roasted broccoli. I'm like, what's going on? And I was talking with Emily, who's on my team, and I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, well, the season's changing. It's summer here. We want grilled vegetables. We don't want something roasted and like heavier. So I'm like, oh, I just need to take on my griddle plate. And all of a sudden, summer squash and onions and asparagus and all of that, on my griddle plate sounded amazing again. So it's this constant, checking in what works for you. And I'm like, okay, well, that will be my cooked vegetable. And I'm so glad I didn't write roasted vegetables in the book, because that wasn't.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's like the new paradigm is really connecting that cosmic convergence of recognizing the energy of the planets and the seasons and recognizing the local foods and really tapping into that space too. I think that's really where people are really waking up and realizing that it doesn't have to be stagnant, because I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of with meal prepping. Is like, oh my God, I'm eating this again.
Yeah.
I know that's been my shift. It's like, oh man, it's like, I have to eat this for 3 days now. Like, that seems complacent. But then it's like, how can you switch it up? How can you mix it up and introduce other things so it's not like the Truman Show on your plate?
Yeah. Well, I have a whole workshop on that. Do you have my meal prep workshop? I have to send it for you. I can share it with your listeners.
I'll put the link below.
Yeah, that's really just, it's about how to make these foods, but I'm not chopping an onion. It's more about how to think about putting this together. Mm-hmm. So it does stay interesting to you, how to use fresh herbs and how to keep it basic. And I call it more like assembling instead of.
Yeah, it's like an art form on your plate almost.
Totally.
It's like you're putting together a masterpiece on your plate of like nature's gifts and her nourishment. And I feel like that's the other way we can really start healing the planet too, is by like really honoring and paying reverence to her foods and the medicines that she's offering through her plants.
I love that you just said that. It's something I would never say, and I love that you just said that. So good. Because I feel that and I believe that. It's just so interesting to show like how different we are in our language and what our gifts are and how we express ourselves and communicate and what our truths are. And I hear that and it resonates, but those words would never come out of, not right now in my head in that way, but it's all the same message. It's all the same story. It's all coming from the earth. It's all how we're connected. And there's the science of that. And then there's also just the knowing of that. And it's
like, I feel like this year there was like an Earth Day hangover. Like people were still talking about Earth Day after Earth Day. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we really are going back to this like Uranus and Taurus, like we really are in this new paradigm of really recognizing we are all one with the planet and like really recognizing that and recognizing like I have a mulberry tree in my backyard. And so it's so strong on the antioxidants and digestive health. So that's Gaia sharing with me, like, I'm here to be bountiful in this tree and share with you nutrients and medicine that you can eat every day that's going to continue to help you with your gut health and strengthen your lower triangle, which is in Kundalini Yoga. We talk about the lower triangle being your physical reality. That's like your physical baseline, essentially. So any trauma that's caused between the ages of 0 and 22, it's stuck in that lower triangle. And if that's not strong as your foundation, you can't live from your heart, and then you can't live from your spiritual self either. So having that baseline be really strong to heal the solar plexus and the sacral and even just the root. And like, if I feel like I need to get grounded, I eat root veggies, and just really being aware, the awareness of the food as well. I think that is revolutionary.
21 years old. So share another story. I lost my father to cancer when I was 17. So I never knew about that, like learning and development stage. Like I know I've always said to people, like to have a trauma like that in those years is very interesting. Yeah. There's something else. And maybe that's what I was tapping into and I just didn't have the language for it, but there's just something else that happens in that stage of your life that like it's an in-between. There's, it's like the adolescent into like coming into like young adult, because all of my trauma went from like 16 to 22 in my life. Like I went to like probably like 16 funerals between that time, and like deep trauma, deep depression, which is what I've been working through healing. Like, and that's why my body is experiencing what it is right now with all my gut health, is because it's continuing to purge out more of those old stories and old traumas so that I can continue to be more heart-centered and have that heart be the bridge between my physical reality and my spiritual reality. Mm-hmm. So to be able to really address that and to really heal my solar plexus, to reclaim my power back from the depression and the mental illness and all of that,
through food, and really just paying reverence to that and really connecting with my ancestors through food, since it's like so part of my DNA. Like my family owns 3 restaurants, and like true Italians, you know, like my dad, like straight up like New York Italian guy, like the epitome of that guy, you know? And so that again is just very much connecting to the ancestral realm and realizing like, again, like, you know, now your dad's guiding you with your gut health. That's what I'm hearing and seeing right now with him, is like, he's guiding you and he's sharing, like, he's so proud of you right now that you are really bringing this revolution with food, and he's supporting you. And losing him in that area and that stage of your life during the development of your solar plexus, and you're working with gut health, and it's just really beautiful to see like how I feel him here right now, of him like guiding you and like how proud he is of you and just like really on this journey with you. He's smiling. I have goosebumps all over.
Well, he was really loud, so I'm not surprised.
I get it.
To hang out too. It's interesting. You know, I've always, yes, there's loss and grief, but with him, I don't know that it was ever suffering, because I really do get that. I always say about death that it's so wild and so mind-blowing and so painful in all the ways that it can potentially happen, that we must know absolutely nothing about what there really is after. Like, for that to make sense, to lose in the way that we lose, or the way that sometimes people can feel taken from us, like, there is so much we don't know about that I can wait to know. But
I'm not in any rush.
I'm not in any rush in any means, but it's so impossible to process.
Wrap around. Yeah,
that it has to be like there isn't even the language to express of what's on the other side. There just isn't. It's not even there.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that guidance and that strength and that connectedness to him. And I am grateful for knowing that. I'm not grateful so much for how it had to happen, but I am grateful for what I have learned and taken in through it and from it and carried with it.
I honor that in you, sister.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So I want to ask a few lightning round questions.
Okay.
They're not too crazy.
Okay.
So what would you say is one of your spirit animals, or animals that you've been seeing a lot lately that are really guiding you?
This is another thing I don't think about.
I'm opening you up, Robyn.
I know. This is why I'm here.
Yeah. This was the resistance you had towards like, sovereign goddess, like,
Oh, God. Probably birds.
Mm-hmm.
Dead and living.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dead and living.
Any birds in, like, specifically that you've been seeing a lot of?
I was at my sister's house in Ohio, and she's flooded with robins, which is interesting.
Go figure.
Yeah, and I've always taken that as a sign. Like, whenever I see like a real robin in front of me, my dad's of course, my dad's from Ohio, and I went to go visit his sister, who now has cancer and is recovering from chemotherapy and surgery. And so, of course, the house was bathed in robins. So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's your dad. Yeah,
Very
perfect. Okay, what would you share with younger Robyn today?
It's okay if what you're doing doesn't make sense. Like, you don't have to have a resume and do your passions at the same time, and you don't have to explain it to everybody, and you don't have to make sure that you're paying the rent, so that means you're worthy. Like, none of what you're doing needs to make sense. It's okay. You just have permission to just do what's in your heart.
Okay, so by the time Navy gets to your age, what do you vision the food, like our relationship with food as a society?
Oh my God. Oh, I've never thought of this, but I have so many visions just poured in. For those of you who don't know, I have a 2-year-old daughter. Her name is Navy. She's
like the cutest
redheaded star child. Just to
Star
quickly
seed.
share that, she really is. Like, I got pregnant in a session that should not have resulted in a baby. So clearly, like, that child just
she wanted to come in.
I didn't think I was ovulating. It was like the pre, maybe we'll start trying. I'm not the youngest in the ovulatorily speaking. Is that a word? I just made it up. And she came in. So this child was 1,000% ready to be here and continues to breathe every moment of her life of every day. So the visions that I had was that eating experiences, like community. So I see things a lot over my left eye and have a lot of visions. I always have that then get connected to my intuition. It's kind of this loop that runs. So what I'm seeing is that all of our community spaces are overrun with like family tables, like narrow family tables that snake through for people to come and eat together. So whether it's snacks or lunches, breakfasts or dinners, like the way that we have sidewalks is the way that we have these like snake-like interwoven, really cool, easy to install, light, they stay clean, like kind of like subways and buses. And it's just a part of our society. They run through malls, they run through outdoor public spaces, there's plazas, there's, glass atriums built over them. It's just a part of our society. And it's just expected that we all come to these tables or, lunch hours are 90 minutes at work and you're frowned upon if you come in under an hour. It's like kind of like an hour plus becomes the new norm for everything. And like families can eat dinners on them, or if somebody is single and they don't have somebody to dine with, like they can just walk 2 blocks down the street to the main street where there would be a bus and there's these like tables. And that literally just came to me.
I'm just feeling into that. When you're talking about the snake, like it's like the Kundalini awakening, and that is like becoming that true pure channel of like enlightenment and also embodiment, balance. Oh my God.
And that was, I saw a snake.
That's a beautiful vision, Robyn. I hold that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. And so it is, and it is so amazing. Okay, so what is one last thing you would like to share about gut health and helping people reclaim their body back around their gut health and their bodies to really show up and step up and share their truth and their medicine with the world?
Hearing so many things, so I'll just talk. More than anything, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. You can pick one thing, one place you're going to start, and just know that like you can do this. You can tap into your warrior. It's inside of you. It can be a soft warrior. It can be a fighting warrior. It can be a sleeping warrior. It can be, a blazing with babies on their back warrior. There's all kinds of warriors, but know that you have that inside of you and that they're ready. They're ready. It's just you letting them out of the gate and let them guide you. You do not have to do the work. It does not need to be all on you. You are energetically supported in all the ways, and you can do this.
If that's not empowering, I don't know what is. And where can we find more of you? Your book, your coaching, your weekly, like, 'cause the epitome of a super mom. Like, you just blow my mind, Robyn, truly.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of ways to connect and hang out. So everything through my name, I'll include it in the show notes. It's Robyn, Robyn, Youkilis, Youkilis. And I have a great couple things to highlight: meal prep workshop and a 6-week digital coaching program that I'm starting now. And just an FYI, my new book, Thin from Within, is on back order, and it's going to be a couple weeks for people to order it. So
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, they blew through like all the prints and a reprint. So now it's been wild. So there's going to be a Kindle version coming, but I would recommend, and this is a great opportunity to support your local bookshops. If you go to indiebound.org, INDIE bound.org, put in your zip code, put in the title, support your local bookshops. And maybe when you're listening to this, the book will be available. So the book is Thin from Within. And if you didn't remember how to spell my name, you could just find the author name through the book.
It's in the subject line of the podcast. So just literally like open your eyes and just realize like, oh, this is how I spell her name. I'm going to follow her because she's like amazing and all the things. I just really wanted to honor you, Robyn, and really appreciate the work you're doing and your commitment and your dedication to really help us really heal from the inside out, and to just really allow us to really tap into our own inner power and our own inner wisdom, and cultivating this real healthy relationship with food again that makes sense, that is going to really propel humanity forward in a way where we're all able to really share our own gifts and like really bring our medicine to the table and really just radiate through our skin, our light, our health, and our vitality. And so I bow to you so humbly, and it's truly an honor to have you here. And I'm so excited to see how it's going and to see you like all over the place. And it's so beautiful to watch you in your dharma. And thank you for being such a light and inspiration for moms out there and everyone. So I just really bow to that and say thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful blessing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Go check out Robyn. Go support your local bookstores. This is new paradigm again. Like, we love Amazon, but go support your local bookstores, the smaller ones. Those are the gems. And thank you again for listening. And we'll be seeing more of you soon. Take care. Satnam.